I was going to share a hot take with you right off the bat, but I'll start with a story. This one actually, I believe most of you have heard, but it does resonate with me as I think about what I'm seeing in the industry and some of our customers. The story is something like it's at night, a policewoman is doing the rounds around the neighborhood and notices a man frantically searching for something under the street light. So there's a light, and they're just like looking and looking. And she asks, what are you looking for? What's going on? He says, I'm looking for my keys. And being the helpful person she is, she goes, you know what? I'll help with you. And she gets down, and she's looking, and she's looking. And she goes, there's no way it's here. Goes, are you sure you lost your keys here? And he goes, no, I lost them back in the park. I'm just looking here because there's really good lighting, right? So this story is called the street light effect, and that is going for something that we're either familiar with or where we can maybe get the answers we want, and instead of looking where the biggest impact is. And so what I want to bring to you today stems from the experience that we have at Zapier, working with lots and lots of different companies, being a very horizontal product across many different industries and different sizes of how these companies are automating and using AI. And this kind of gives us a little bit of a window of what is happening across these industries and these companies. Specifically, I want to focus on a problem that both like IT and R&D have had for a long time, predating the breakthroughs of AI, but now that has been, you could say, both exacerbated, but also being tackled with AI. And so, and I'll be giving you a few real-world like case studies, not sort of hypotheticals or things they could do. These are actual enterprise customers doing this. So what is that problem that I referred to? This is, again, since I remember time immemorial, really, IT and R&D, we've been stretched thin. We have our own backlog. So there are like features we got to do. There's like bugs and technical debt and support tickets and so on, and complex systems. But we also have other functions that come to IT and R&D for their requests. And what they're looking for are things like, could you just connect our HubSpot CRM into our marketing platform? Isn't it just a bunch of code? You all write but code? Can you just do that? And we're like, yeah, we could, but again, there's this backlog sort of like looming behind us. Or it'll be like, every week we got to get this data from our ERP and have it show up in our BI dashboards. Can you do that? Can you help us with that? And again, IT is like, of course we could do it. It's actually not that complicated, but then I have to like maintain it, and if something changes, I got to deal with it, and so on and so forth, right? So this has been essentially a problem as far as long as I remember. And typically, if the answer is, okay, sure, we could do it, let's put it on the backlog, it's one sprint, maybe two sprint, maybe never, you'd never get to it. And then those business functions are waiting for you. They're blocked by IT and R&D. Arguably, this is actually exacerbated by the proliferation of the AI tools that we have coming up. Even at Zapier, we're seeing that the legal team, they want their own, they actually procured their own legal chatbot. Support has its own chatbot. Marketing gets its own. Revenue ops gets its own. And so on top of all the SaaS applications that we have, now we've got these function-specific chatbots that they need as well, which is great, fine, but they all, again, need integration. They need a little bit of automation, and they go, can you just, this chatbot doesn't quite integrate with this bespoke tool I've got. Can't engineering, can you just kind of connect that for me? And we're like, again, put it on the backlog, and we'll see. So what we are seeing is kind of an interesting shift because this is such a big problem. We are seeing certain customers make this little bit of a shift. Instead of being the support to these requests and saying, sure, we'll get to it when we get to it in our backlog, what they're doing is they're going into a mind of, okay, we will provide you the tooling. We will provide some oversight, not quite regulation, but some oversight and visibility, but you can kind of self-serve some of these automation and integration needs that you've got. In this sense, IT and R&D, by virtue, again, of being technical, of understanding the risks and the security and so on, are in control. but they're not the bottleneck. They don't need to go to every single function and every single use case and provide that automation. So it's a bit of a shift. Okay, so that's all, let's say, theoretical. Let's get to some real-world case studies. So the first case study is a fairly large media company. They own, I believe, 27 local news stations in the United States. And one of the problems they had was for each local station, they get lots and lots of emails and Twitter and X and so on about things happening to that locality. Things like there's a local event, there's a traffic tip I need to let someone know, there's a weather event, I don't know, the cat went up the tree and I don't know what's going on, I need to tell the local news, but there are like legitimate breaking news, maybe there's like a crime in progress and so on and so forth. Each of these 27 stations had a team of 2 to 5, depending on size of the local station and the coverage area, that were reading what's coming in from email and Twitter and so on, figuring out, oh, okay, this is a legitimate thing. This relates to weather. This relates to crime. This relates to this breaking news that we've got. And I need to route this through email, Microsoft Teams, to the right team. So 2 to 5 people, essentially, this is the primary job that they were doing. And at some point, somebody figured out, okay, hold on. The centralized IT, like, we don't want to go to every single station and say, you should automate it. They procured a no-code AI automation tool. They set up the guardrails of what applications they have access to, who can do what, who can read, who can edit. But also, they set up a template. They said, okay, here's a template of how you can automate this fairly tedious work that you need to do every single day, that you're spending basically 2 to 5 full-time employee time doing, and then have each business unit go and do that. I'll talk about the impact here, but you can kind of see in terms of how much it freed up for the folks. Okay, so again, going down one level, like practically what does that look like? It looks like something like this. First step, in this case, they had, let's say, email coming in, Microsoft Outlook. The second step references a table. So someone says, you know what, for our local station, we're looking for weather events, traffic tips, breaking news, crime, et cetera. And these are the channels and these are the groups that are interested in that. Pretty simple table. My local station can maintain mine. The second local station can have theirs, et cetera, et cetera. And what we need to do is analyze, and that's the next step. We're going to analyze the email or the Twitter coming in. This is what ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude, they're very good at. Let's summarize the content, check it against the table, right, and see which of those it falls into. It's not 100% deterministic, but honestly, even a human could make that mistake. If it's a rainy day and the cat went up the tree, is it a weather event or is it a local news? I don't know. I'm just going to route it to the weather people anyway, right? So in this case, it's in the low-risk area. The human would probably make similar determination. And then the automation can also improve over time because you could say, it routed it incorrectly. That one is actually more local news rather than an event or a weather event. So, and then they could just route that to the particular editorial team so that they could follow up with this. Or for a lot of the incoming, it's actually just discarded, and you can send an automated email back and say, thank you for letting us know about the cat up the tree. That's very interesting, but obviously we're not going to follow up and have a news about it. The impact of this is for every station, those 2 to 5 people that were doing this pretty much full time could now a little bit monitor this, do a little bit of quality control that it's working, but then now they could do higher leverage journalism work. What they could do is once something is a piece of news, they could actually do some follow-up. They could talk to the lead and say, you know what? Tell me more about this thing that you saw, and take notes and pass it on, instead of just purely doing this routing automated or automatable work that they were doing. So it's not like these folks were let go, they just had more interesting jobs afterwards. So coming back to that story that I said at the beginning, this is one of those areas, like if you kind of look at it, other than the magic of AI in the middle, where it's doing the summarization and categorization, the actual technology here isn't incredibly sophisticated, right? It's get emails from Outlook, summarize it, look up a table, send it off. What's really interesting here is, again, IT and R&D to us, this would look like, that's interesting, that's good. But for the local news station, this is pretty impactful. They're like, wow, I had 2 to 3 people that were doing this all the time, And again, it's not very flashy. It's not very Twitter-worthy or, oh, I vibe coded my own Salesforce in 2 days. It's nothing like that. It's like, yeah, this was a pain point. We got rid of it. It's fantastic. What's the next thing that we could do so that people could do higher level work? And again, the nice thing here is if you can imagine if that IT team was to do this for 27 stations, they would become a bottleneck. They would also have to maintain this, whereas this way they don't maintain it. Each local station maintains their own automation. They know what's best. They know what categories to use. Okay, so that was one real-world case study. We've got another one. This one, a little bit bigger, 20,000 employee company. I can't name the company. It is actually Paramount that I don't mention the company name. And they have a centralized engineering and IT department. And they've got many, many business units. And they're different business units. Some are TV, production, post-production, streaming platform, and merchandising. You can imagine if that centralized IT and R&D need to go into every single business unit and say, okay, what do you need to automate? Oh, yeah, that thing you're doing really manually, we can automate that for you. For 20,000, that's just not going to scale. And it's an absolute nightmare because IT and R&D, they've got their own work to do on top of all of this. So instead what they did, same thing, they procured a no-code AI automation tool. They set up the guardrails, set up some approvals. Not everyone can touch everything. Not everyone can go to the Google sheet that has the executive salaries and all that. So like, okay, things are good. Now we can go to every business unit and have them automate what they need to do. So what was interesting was in the hand of each business unit, they all found different use cases that was good for them. I'll give you one of these. Again, in the previous slide, you can see it's like 550 different things were automated, but I'm going to give one of these that to us seems almost pedestrian, but to them it was like, my goodness, this is like a life changer for me. This particular job was a handoff from the production to the post-production business unit. And what the post-production team had to do, they would essentially get an Asana ticket that would say, okay, you need to go through post-production. Here are the assets. Here are the links. It has a custom field like is it an ad? Is it a promotional video? Is it an episode, et cetera, et cetera? And now the person in post-production, for every single one of these, had to go to this app called Frame.io, create a new project, name it a particular thing so it could be found. It's related to the Asana thing. Copy paste the name, create a folder structure, put stuff like work in progress, final deliverable, et cetera, and then put the links or any content. Do this 1,000 times, right, for a big company, and this becomes a thing that you're doing. Oh yeah, I do that like 1 hour a day. That's what I do. And then I made a mistake. I forgot that folder needs to exist, and so on, because it's human, it's error prone. So what they did instead was they set up a workflow. They said, okay, if an Asana ticket comes in, look at the custom field. If it's this, go to Frame.io, create the project there, create these subfolders. And you know what? Upload this thing there. The nice thing about this, not just in terms of saving time, is now you've got a consistent naming for every single project. Every subfolder is named consistently. It's easily searchable. It's not human, error prone. I forgot to create that folder. So every single project kind of gets that. And for them, the post-production team hits the ground running. They come in, they get the Asana, they probably get an automated Slack message, hey, this project is ready for you. They go in, I'm like, I didn't need to click 50 times. This is done for me. Now I can actually do my creative work of creating the post-production. So this is only one of the automations that they set up. One interesting, you could say, side effect of teams outside of engineering getting access to these tools is some folks have the propensity to sort of get the wheels going. They go, hold on a minute, if I automated that, what else can I automate? What else is going to save me time? And they come up with like little things that when you multiply by the 20,000, it has a lot of impact. This is a simple one where someone's like, you know what, it's really hard for me to read all these Slack messages in the threads. What I want to do is when I do an emoji, I want AI as a next step to get the Slack thread, all this content, and I've got certain prompts. I'm interested in these 3 things. If it has these, please summarize it, send it to me in this way, either a Slack DM or an email, or put it in my Notion or whatever. And this saves me the time to read every single Slack thread in that channel. I just need to emoji it, and then later I come back and get a summary. Again, this wasn't maybe like the intention of the tool, but they can do that. And to think of like, if they wanted to do this and they went to IT and R&D and I said, hey, can you do this for me? The answer would either be no, and nobody got time for that, or sure, create a Jira issue, put it in my backlog, I'll get to it when I get to it, which is probably never. This never would have gotten prioritized compared to all the important features and bug fixes that we all need to do. Okay, so the third one is different in the sense that this is, again, an IT organization that's very lean, trying to support a lot of people, and realizing that they could automate some of their own work as well. So not just serving others, but doing it for themselves. And again, they're trying to keep things very, very lean, a team of, I believe, 3 folks in IT supporting over 1,700. So they get a lot of support requests, and they're growing, and they need to deal with that and answer their questions. So one of the things they did was let us set up an automated AI, basically, help desk ticket resolver. It's got our knowledge management sources in terms of where, our Coda, our Google Doc, et cetera, of like what our policies are. We can go into Okta, get the person's role, get the person's name, get the person's department, what they should have access to and not, and then answer the question. In this case, there was about 27% or so of the tickets that they could resolve just with AI. But given the number of tickets they had, 27% was a huge time saving for them. And they could go and do that. Let's see if the video plays. So this is the director of IT of this company, which I can name, Remote, that is showing how they set up this automation so that they don't need to answer every single question that comes in.
New request workflow, and I will create a help request. So if any individual were to go to the IT Help Slack channel and run the IT Help V3 workflow, all they have to do is to provide a title for the request and a detailed description. And I will do that now. Once I hit submit, what's happening in the background is that this Zap is triggered. So we see here, we request an IT help. There is a filter step and a code by Zapier step, along with a webhook that is sent to Okta to receive attributes for the individual's profile. And one cool function that I'm a really big fan of is Zapier's error handling. So we actually use ChatGPT to determine the priority and the type of request. If for whatever reason this were to fail, we're using Gemini instead to do the exact same thing. As we can see on the left here, in Slack, the new request has been added to Notion, which is our single source of truth. Once I click this link, we're taken to the page for the request. And this is where our IT operations team primarily provides support. Within a few moments, Zapier Central should be triggered and automatically generate suggested resolutions for the end user, as well as for members of IT operations who may not have encountered this request previously. The suggested resolution will be written to this property here, Zapier Central Assistant property, and it'll actually also be sent over to Slack. One other thing that we can do that I'll show off is the assignment of tickets. So if I were to click on the eyes reactor here, what we'll see in a few moments actually on the Notion ticket, as well as through notification in Slack, is that I have assigned myself this help request. So as you can see here, the ticket's now assigned to me. Oh, and there's Zapier Central, providing a suggested pathway to resolution, and an effective one at that.
Awesome. Now, I just realized this director of IT does not speak at 2x speed. The reason why it's going so fast is because I listen to looms and videos at 2x speed. That's the default that was given to the team there, so that's my bad. He does not have a squirrel voice. That's on me. But yeah, you can kind of see he's set that up, and you can auto assign, etc. One of the things that's not showed in the video is as the IT person, what he can do is if something they see is not answered properly and the person goes, yep, the suggestions were great, but it still didn't solve what I need, they go back, they solve that problem, the human solves the problem, but then they go, why did our documentation not provide the right tool, the right information? They add that to the knowledge base so that next time a similar question would get answered. So the 27% is only the current performance. You can kind of see it over time get better and better. Okay, so those are 3, again, real world, maybe again, not very snazzy examples, but incredibly impactful ways that folks are using automation and AI. In order for that to be in place, a little bit mirroring the regulation side, there's got to be some guardrails in place so that the centralized IT feels comfortable to be able to allow others who are not technical to be able to do this type of thing. You need things like pre-approved apps, so you basically don't want everyone to be able to connect to anything that they want. Who knows what they'll be siphoning off in terms of the data and so on. You want to give people permission, okay, you can do this, but not this. Various authentications you can read from HubSpot, but maybe you can't write into HubSpot, et cetera. You need things like prompt libraries. Not everyone is good at providing prompt to AI, so being able to provide these templates, you could say, of, okay, if you're summarizing things, use this prompt. if you're categorizing things, you use this prompt. So these prompt libraries kind of get folks going. I already mentioned automation template, where if you've got 27 local stations, you provide one template, and then they each can take that template and adapt it for their use case. You need monitoring observability, who's using it, who's not, who's using it a lot. This is going to cost me a lot. Why is that local station, basically going through and automating so much? That's good, but it's also something I want to monitor. Maybe they've made a mistake, and that AI is going bananas there. I need to go talk to them. So you need some observability there, and you need things like domain capture, et cetera. So the right people in the right organization are using it. Larger organizations, we see they would like to silo each business unit. The one I mentioned, you want one team or one organization to have their own sort of siloed, because they have their apps and so on. They don't want the other teams to gain visibility. Sometimes you see this with function like HR. They might have all their automation. They don't necessarily want other people to see their apps they're using, the automation that they've set up. So that's another sort of guardrail that typically you see in place. There are lots of these AI and no-code automation platforms. The way to think about it is 3 elements. They need to be capable. They need to be able to connect to the right applications. If they are using particular agents and bots, they need to be able to connect to those. Some of them you definitely want them to, if you're using in-house models, some people don't like using the cloud-based provided ones, so they self-host. You want them to be able to connect to that so that you have that as available. If you've got like legacy software, you want to be able to connect to those as well. Second, you want them to be easy to use. The whole point of this was that non-engineers, non-developers could automate. If the system is so complex that then they go, oh, this is great. Hey, IT, I need you to help. It's like, oh, that was the whole thing. I didn't want you to come back for me to write the code. Now I don't want you to come back for me to tell you how to do the no-code version, right? So it has to be very easy to use so they can kind of pick it up. And then the third one is like that sort of like control visibility, so that centralized ID makes sure folks have the right tools, they have the right access, and the right usage as well. So at the end, I know that as engineers and technologists, we just can't help but optimize our own department, and we're going to do that. That's wonderful. At the same time, we should, in parallel, look at other departments as well and help them and enable them to also do it, because you'd be surprised how many very manual, repetitive types of tasks other departments are doing that in engineering we would not find very palatable for us to be like, why isn't this being automated? I can do it, but I also have my own backlog. So you want to sort of like enable them to do that. In this way, going back to that story, we're basically both looking for the keys under the street light, which is our own department, but also we're looking in the parks too. So, and that's it. If there's a QR card, if you want to watch more of that IT help desk, that's there. But I'm happy to answer any questions. The 2 minutes I've got left. Shadow IT, exactly. So what we do see sometimes, this is that tension between ease of use and folks that are like, I cannot be blocked by IT to do this, versus the control. So what ends up happening is, because we have a backlog and we say no, or it's going to take many sprints, what folks do is they go and self-serve. They go, okay, fine. Like, we actually see this with Zapier. People that are in companies, they have procurement, they got security, they got IT. It takes so long. They're, you know what? I'm going to use my personal credit card to get Zapier. I'm going to automate this. And then what we find is we go, we look at the account, we go talk to the accountant and we go, you have 100 people with their personal accounts, and they're like, their personal account, they're connecting their personal account to the Google, like, Gmail of the company. And we're like, yeah, if you get the enterprise, right? So we see this, but it's a constant tension, because for them to go through the, let's say the procurement, it takes time. It needs to be standard, and then they need to do the enablement and all that. But the ease of use is good, because then once it's there, they can kind of go and just use it without IT being involved. 45 questions, any last-minute ones? Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer questions. We've got our booth as well, so come and see us. All right, 30-second. Have you encountered resistance to automation with AI due to fear of being out of a job? So how did you measure that? Yes. Of course, yes. Of course, yes. This is there, especially, again, in those other functions. I think our technologists were like, oh, yeah, sure, there's going to be great tools. We're not at all scared in that sense, but other departments, they do. I think that example of the media company that I mentioned is probably the best one in the sense that the types of things realistically, not the very sort of like PR heavy type, the realistic things that are being automated are actually things that people don't want to do anyway. They're repetitive, they're manual, it's over, and it's like, we can get rid of those, and you can actually do higher leverage work. Thank you.